Hello, folks, and welcome to Neighbor. I'm your host for today, Daniel Kasnitz, and we're very pleased to have with us Rabbi Tom Heyn, who is a rabbi for the Brattleboro area Jewish community. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let's start right in, and I wonder where was it that you grew up, and what's your background?
Well, I'm originally from Baltimore, and grew up there. Went to school a couple years in New Jersey, Drew University, and then moved out to the San Francisco Bay Area. Lived there for about 12 years, and then moved to Milwaukee, where I finished my degree, my undergraduate degree, and from there went to Israel. I was accepted into rabbinical school. Spent the first year of my studies in Jerusalem, and then the remaining 4 years at the Hebrew Union College, its campus in Cincinnati.
Wow.
Where I was for about 15 years before coming here to Brattleboro.
And what did you do while you were in Cincinnati?
Well, I was raised in a Reformed Jewish family in Baltimore, but I found myself in my teenage years to be a spiritual seeker. I became a vegetarian, became acquainted with the writings of Mahatma Gandhi and other thinkers in the East. And I was not aware that spirituality could be found in Judaism. I thought it was just a place you go and sit in a boring service and then you go home. So I studied Eastern philosophy and religion, and practiced and studied in an ashram in the San Francisco Bay Area for 10 years.
And so then after that in Cincinnati, what was it that brought you back to actively being a rabbi?
Well, I was still in San Francisco at the time, and joined a synagogue mostly for social reasons, for networking reasons, and found that, yeah, there was, I began to sense that there was something spiritual about it. Spoke to a young rabbi there who recommended a couple of books about Jewish mysticism and Kabbalah, and that's when I realized, wow, I could find spirituality in my own tradition.
And then how did the move from Cincinnati to Brattleboro wind up happening, and when did that happen?
Well, going back to San Francisco, he recommended at some point in time, I learned Hebrew, became a bar mitzvah at the age of 30, and then somebody said, you know, you should become a rabbi. And I thought, well, that's kind of a crazy idea. I still needed to finish my undergraduate degree. I was still learning Hebrew and knew very little about other aspects of Jewish tradition. But I realized that if I wanted to take it seriously, I wanted to be able to study it as more than just a hobby on the side. So I thought, well, if I were to go to rabbinical school and enroll and you know, immerse myself in Jewish studies, that's really how I could really get the most and learn the most that was possible at that point in time in my life. So I was accepted into rabbinical school, and my learning curve was about as steep as that ski slope I went up this morning. And
over there, the ski jump?
The ski jump in Brattleboro, right.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't sure I wanted to be a congregational rabbi because I felt that my interests were still in the area of Jewish mysticism and Kabbalah, and to have to worry about the myriad other things that one would have to, you know and understand and you know, have to deal with in a congregation. I chose to work as a chaplain in a long-term care facility and as an educator. But after about 10 years of that, I felt, you know, I had remembered my days in the ashram when we experienced a sense of, when there was a real spiritual community. And we were more than a group of individuals. There was a real sense of a cohesive sense of community where the focus was a spiritual one. And I began to yearn for that again, only this time in a Jewish context. And I knew that it was possible. And I've seen it done in other communities, and would have loved to have joined one. But being trained as a rabbi, I realized I'd have to find one and participate in it and help it to develop even further, only this time in a role as a spiritual leader. So I began to consider taking a pulpit in any community that would have me. There are too many rabbis in Cincinnati because many of them graduate and they stick around like I did. So I found that there was an opening here in Brattleboro, and I had only been in Vermont many years ago as a camp counselor at the Farm and Wilderness Foundation, and I just loved the mountains. I loved everything about Vermont. And the more I learned about Brattleboro, not only is there the beautiful natural scenery and the mountains here, but the culture is quite unique. There's a very highly developed social consciousness. There are many, many artists and musicians and environmentalists and activists here. I thought, wow, what a perfect place. And I have to mention, besides that, the name of the congregation is Shir Heharim, which means Song of the Mountains. And because music is very central to my work as a rabbi, and I understand the importance of music and spirituality, I thought this would be a perfect place.
Can you speak a little bit more about music in your practice and what your background is as a musician and how you use music?
Sure. When I was growing up in Baltimore, I learned to play the keyboard, the piano, studying at the Peabody Institute. And although I never really mastered classical music and sight reading, I always had an ear, and I would hear a song and be able to figure it out without too much trouble. And in the course of the time that I spent at the ashram, I ended up leading kirtan, which is an Indian form of devotional music. Many other religions have their own unique forms of devotional religious music. The Sufi tradition has Qawwali music. Many people have heard of Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan. And there are probably one of the best known and universally known and practiced form of devotional music is call response music. So the music is not all that intricate. It's very simple, in fact, and very repetitive. But it helps to induce a very meditative state of mind. And so I'm a big fan of that kind of music, and find that there's quite a lot of it in Jewish music as well. But I love Jewish music probably is the broadest genre of any kind of music, because you find Jewish music in countries around the globe, in all different styles, in all different languages. You've even got, reggae, beatbox, hip-hop Jewish music. So it's just incredible, the diversity of it. And I love it all. And I play what I can on the keyboard. I tried to learn the guitar once and accepted a job as a song leader in a summer camp just so that I could learn the guitar. And I ended up having to bring my keyboard around with me because I just never picked it up. But what I love to do the most is recruit other musicians, like yourself, and try to bring them together and to play and to have a very participatory kind of spiritual experience that's connected to music, that is a non-rational means of accessing and giving expression to our natural spiritual impulses.
So it's your experience that music can bring us to experiences or help us access states that other disciplines might not reach.
Absolutely. No doubt about it.
And how do you actively use it now in your services?
Well, many of the prayers in a service, most of them in Hebrew, can be sung. There are just hundreds, if not thousands, of melodies for all the prayers throughout the Jewish liturgy. And, in the last decade or two, there are many contemporary songwriters that have written beautiful melodies for the Hebrew prayers as well as the English interpretations of them. So there are so many choices. And when it comes to planning out a prayer service, and you can bring in instrumentation and percussion and create a real experience that's different from the one I had growing up.
So it sounds like music is very much integrated throughout service.
Absolutely.
As opposed to, something at the beginning or something at the end.
Right.
What's your experience like now? How long have you been with the Brattleboro area Jewish community, and how have you found being in Brattleboro and with this community? And what do you find that BAJC brings to Brattleboro?
Well, I started in July of 2010.
So not quite a year.
So at this point, it's been about 9 months. And although the Brattleboro area Jewish community has been in existence for the last 40 years, and they've had a history of having a few rabbis throughout different periods in their history, as well as lay leaders. One that had served for 10 years until recently was very beloved and did many wonderful things for the community. The community has had a role to play in the broader community here, bringing a greater awareness to Judaism, to its holidays, having a seat at the table for the interfaith associations that exist here, and helping to support the many, many Jews most of whom are not affiliated and most of whom are very secular in their orientation.
And describe a bit, what are the various offerings at the Brattleboro area Jewish community? What type of programs are available, and how do people participate?
Many of our programs are related to the holidays that occur throughout the year. We have Passover Seders, and we have other activities and classes related to each of the holidays. Hanukkah was a great time. The High Holy Days is one of the times of the year when a lot of the unaffiliated Jews will come to a service. Other activities, we have a Jewish religious school, a Hebrew school for our children. We have about 36 to 40 children enrolled in our school. We meet Monday afternoons throughout the school year.
And what is the primary function of the Hebrew school?
Of course, it's to transmit our tradition and heritage and our values to our children. They have the opportunities to learn Hebrew, learn about the Jewish holidays, and to prepare for a rite of passage that many will go through at the age of 12 or 13, the bar mitzvah for boys or the bat mitzvah for girls. So at one of the ceremonies for when a person becomes a bar or bat mitzvah, that means a daughter or son of the commandment, that means they become an adult. They become responsible for their own actions. And one of the ceremonies that is usually an integral part of that rite of passage is being able to lead a prayer service. Many of these prayers are in Hebrew. And being able to read from the Torah, which, as we know, is the 5 books of Moses, usually written in the form of a scroll by a scribe on a parchment scroll. And there are no vowels.
Written in Hebrew.
Written in Hebrew, so that the students have to learn how to read the Hebrew, be able to read it without the vowels, and to be able to often chant it, following a very specific, precise form of a trope or cantillation. And there are other blessings and prayers they need to learn and rituals. They also will give a speech or a Devar Torah, a commentary on the weekly Torah portion, and usually use that as an opportunity to make a personal statement about something that's important or meaningful to them. So that's the function of the religious school. We have other activities and classes throughout the year, and services on a regular basis.
Yeah, and when are the regular services, and what are they?
Because it's a small congregation that consists of about 100 families, it's not so, and because I'm actually a part-time rabbi, it's not feasible for us to have a service on the same day every week. So the most important service during the week for us is the Sabbath. So one week we'll have the Sabbath evening, Shabbat evening service on Friday. And the following week we'll have a Shabbat morning service on the Saturday morning. So we usually alternate between Fridays and Saturdays. Our service schedule can be easily found on our website.
And what is
Shall I tell you what that is?
Yeah, what is the website?
BAJCvermont.org.
So
that
Vermont
stands for
spelled out?
Brattleboro Area Jewish Community, Vermont.
Okay, great.
But you know, these days you can just do a Google search or a
Right.
search on any search engine and find the synagogue or congregation or rabbi in Brattleboro.